So also this morning, we want to speak to some other experts about what's going on here. Let's bring in Wendy Patrick. She's a legal and political analyst. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us this morning. First off, we just want to ask, what will this mean for Californians?
Well, remember, California is not a state that's going to outlaw abortion. I think the question that many people have across the nation is, what is their state going to do? Because remember, it's about half evenly divided as to when we can have restrictions on abortion access and then when it can be outlawed or criminalized. And states are all over the map. It's sort of a patchwork of ideology across the nation. California, of course, will be business as usual. But there are many states where there are going to be new laws. And I have to say, the leak of that opinion, the writing was on the wall, and lots of these states were already putting into action some of the things that they were going to need to do to make law one way or the other. You saw the speaker very frustrated there, but this is something that's been in the works. I would even say before February, when we already knew that we had a conservative majority on the court. This was something that at some point some legal experts felt was inevitable.
Wendy, you mentioned that leak back in May. So this isn't a shock because we had an idea that it was coming. But do you see any key differences between the decision now and the leak that we heard of last month?
I don't see any key distinctions, but what I do see is public sentiment not entirely encompassing and understanding what the difference is. The Supreme Court basically said there isn't a constitutional right to abortion. And remember, in the justices' confirmation hearings, they're all asked, would you follow precedent, stare decisis? And many of them have been very clear on saying that, well, traditionally, yes, they also have to look at old law to make sure that that was decided appropriately. And there's been some very high profile cases over the years that have done exactly that. This is now one of them. Dobbs is now one of them that looked at historical precedent for over 50 years, about 50 years, and said that was not decided correctly. Abortion was never a constitutional right. It should be up to the states to decide when to outlaw abortion, what restrictions to have. People were looking at this and just saying, it's going to have to take the right fact pattern and the right case to make its way up to the right court. Remember, and I guess that's a double entendre because the conservative bent of the court is what made this possible. But this was the case, and this is the decision.
And then, Wendy, before we go this morning, for Californians who are watching this right now, what do you think they need to know as more information continues to come out over the days and weeks?
Well, because California is not one of those states that's going to criminalize abortion or have significant restrictions. They probably will want to just keep up with what the laws say here. But many people in many different states have a very different experience depending on what their states are going to do. I also have to say that elections matter, and that's one of the things that the Supreme Court has also always said, is let the states elect people that can make the laws that people want to follow. So that's another thing that's going to impact, I think, the November elections as well.